Good day to you peeps. Liesl here again, and as promised, I'm coming to you today with part 2 of our community Gitty build. Basically how to build any cigar box guitar. Now I've set up as best I can, but obviously you'll probably see less of me and more of the workbench today, as I'm kind of standing astride the toolbox. Space is limited, but you know, we crack on. So here we go. I just move that a little bit. So this morning I did stick parts of the neck together, and I am here to show you also much simpler alternative ways if you don't want to go through all the malarkey of setting up a neck. If it's going to be an acoustic instrument, there's a much simpler way. I'll get onto that in a moment. But so yeah, the first parts of the neck have been sticking for about 4 hours. I did decide actually on this one, as we were discussing neck bend, that I'd reinforce it slightly. I took a look and I thought that neck's a little bit thin. I like them, I do like them quite chunky personally. Enough waffle. So to take the clamps off, when you're clamping wood, I always say use as many clamps as you have. You can never have too many, and you're generally one short. Generally one short is what I would say. You can just put these down without trying to make too much noise. I'll show you this, hopefully. So, yeah. I do think if you can, it's always best to clamp them to a bench or a flat surface, although you don't have to, you can just clamp the wood together. Obviously always use a piece of scrap wood, which we hope hasn't stuck to the neck. That can often happen, because as you see, I'm using what I would call G clamps. Sometimes they're known as C clamps. I think they're the best really, but they do mark the wood with these little round circles. So a piece of old scrap wood, and here we have what will form the basis of the neck. So moving swiftly on. Now the easiest way to fit a built up neck like this, I think, is to obviously set it up and glue it together, but then go to cutting the box. And last time we did discuss finding the centre by folding some paper and finding the centre of the neck in a similar way. Just draw a line, line them up, and then obviously draw around the sides of the neck so you've got the square nicely set up to receive the neck. Now you don't have to cut this recess, you can just have the neck meet this part and have it completely flat if you like. That's another way of doing that. I will move on to that in a minute. But I think it's nice to have that little bit of an overlap. Yeah, it just leads for a nice guitar, I think. And there it is. So I did remove the lid on this one. I'll explain why in a minute. Yes, I mean you could cut that nice and neat with a craft knife. I kind of just tore it off really, but I quite like it that way. And yes, this will make it a lot easier to work on, like much easier. And I will dip off camera so I can show you this. Around the edge where we're going to cut, I have placed electrical tape, cheap and cheerful from Poundland, for 3 rolls. And you will note that I've done the same on the box. Now that is very handy when it comes to cutting out the straight lines, because if you're anything like me, you can veer from side to side. We want to try and prevent that from happening really. So yeah, there it is. Liesl will show you how. Yeah, so I wanted a slightly stronger neck, as I say, so I decided to use a thinner piece of wood that I had to make a kind of a little gasket. So that'll be 3 layers thick once we put the fingerboard on the top. And I do have the fingerboard knocking around. There it is. You will note that that is wider than the guitar neck, as is the fingerboard. So that will go on there like that. And that's the bit that comes out the front of the guitar. Now I would try and spin the camera, but I think my tripod might fall apart if I do that, because it does have a tendency to come loose. But you can see that will be very shortly in the front. It will go in there, and more will become apparent really. This is the bottom piece, which will hold the neck, and quite simply that just fits nice and tidy inside the box. We can actually glue that. That's pretty square because I have leveled it up, but I will show you again before we put it together just how to do that. If you've got one of those mathematical geometry sets with the whatever they're called, you can get nice square lines inside this tiny box, hopefully, because on the outside of the box I've used a pretty regular square, and there it is. That's the one I have, just to go in and to make sure as we go along that we have got nice square cuts. Says Liesl, if she can keep everything on camera. Same on the side, so nicely squared, and we can see that we should get a straight cut there. Now another way to ensure that you do get a nice straight cut for the front piece is just before you take the lid off, you can actually cut in here at an angle. I can just show you. So basically go in at the edge, obviously flat on the bench, at an angle like that, and then you'll get the lid to line up with the body, which again makes it a lot easier when we're cutting out the body. So that's it so far. That's in there, and in a moment we will start to cut these. If I can do that on camera, I'm not sure, but I'll give it a go. Maybe if we angle it slightly, that might suffice. Now, as I say, there is a much easier way of doing the neck, and I do have with me today my little teaching assistant, little Filbert. Little Filbert, and here he is. Now, as you can see, I've cut the slots in the same way that we're going to do in a moment. He's been squared off and everything. I'm not quite sure what I've done with his lid, but we can always make another one if we have to. And you will see that this neck is simply 2 pieces of wood. This part being the heel, and this part here just being the neck. You can add a fingerboard, although you don't have to. I mean, a very traditional guitar would just be made that way. But that's a little bit lower, if you can see, than these cuts here, because I'm going to put another piece there, probably just up to the body on this one, which will take up the gap, and then we can replace the lid. Now the lid probably will sit pretty flush on here. There are different schools of thought. Some people say if you've got a slight gap between the neck and the lid, you get a better sound with more reverb. Some people say it doesn't make a lot of difference, especially if you're fitting electrics. I say I don't think it makes a lot of difference, and I say that because if you remember Honest Jim, he's simply a guitar neck on top of the box like this, and he does make an incredible sound. So I think maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I guess that's one for Professor Liesl in her sound lab. Sorry to show you half a head, but yeah, this is the important bit. And then that simply fits in there, and that's it. So you've got a solid piece. Like I say, if you want, you can always cut down about 1/8 of an inch. Lots of little cuts, as we know. File that out and rasp that. And then you will actually have a little gap between the lid and the neck. But I think really, there's plenty there to make a good sound, and that's just my opinion anyway. So there we go, little Filbert. He will be joining us throughout the process of our community build, because he is a very good teaching aid, just to sort of show you what's what. I've left about 1 inch at the end of the tail where we're going to make the holes to put the strings through on this one. On this larger guitar, I decided to leave about 1.5 inches. And I will try and show you on the bench, but I think probably the best thing now is to go to cutting these slots. So from the top, always have your work well clamped. So again, if you don't want to damage the inside too much, you can use a piece of scrap wood, or really, because we're going through the middle, we're going to cover that, you can simply clamp it to the bench. Says liaison. Let's see if we can. That should be okay. So clamp your work. Now obviously we're going to want to cut from this side, so this is the part where I want to try and keep everything in shot. You can probably see my back, to be honest, but we'll see. Right, so yeah, from the top, if I can just come around this side, let's have a look. Yeah, I think so. Right, we want to go in, and as I say, let's do this side first. Just cut along slightly inside where that tape is, and I do tend to crouch down a little for this, so can we see? I think so. Just to start it off, and a nice Japanese porcelain. I will stand up because we want to cut a nice straight. Just down to the level of the tape. Same on this side. It'll be slightly within, because we can file that down. I would say be careful when you first start, because these do flex quite a lot. And the same down to there. You can see that, and then I'll do another cut in the middle. Sometimes does take a little bit of getting going, and I hope you can see. But, and then again go either side and continue. And on this side. If you've got any excess paper, it's probably a good time to take that out. Just check that they're all of a similar depth. Out there. That looks okay to me. And then I'll quite simply, now this is where you need to be careful, right? Take the box out. And take a craft knife similar to this, whatever you have. This sort of angled blade sort is very good. And where that line is there at the bottom, we want to score along that just ever so slightly. Usually is good enough. Watching your fingers. And you can take it just above that line if you wish. And then hopefully perhaps score that a bit more. Go the other way. That's usually quite a good way. So that you've just sort of scored in a little bit. Now it's easier actually if you have a pair of pliers, but I couldn't find mine. But you should be able to just snap those like that with your fingers. You'll see that it's kind of split a bit there, but that's fine because again you can just go in, take that out. It's a bit jaggedy, but obviously then we can go in with a file and just file that down. And there you have the first slot. It's exactly the same on the back. I've hatched that out. It's all been squared so we know that the neck's nice and straight. And then it's a lot easier to see what we're doing as the neck and the saddle here will obviously be placed on top of this piece of wood inside the box. So we have that in there. It's just about the right height. If it's slightly over, it doesn't matter because we can adjust for it later. The neck goes on there, and there you go. See, it is starting to look kind of guitar shaped. There we go, and there it is. So some excellent questions in the comments. Shout out Brand64. Thank you, Brand64. You raised a very good question. Who said, are there specific set scale lengths you have to have, or can you have anything you want? With a cigar box guitar, the scale length can be anything you like. I've seen them from like 16 inches to 26 inches, and it makes no difference when you're tuning them up. The only time it does make a difference, obviously, is if you're going to add frets, because the spacings between the frets on say a 25.5 inch scale length guitar obviously will be larger than say, I don't know, 16, 17 inch, which would be like more a tenor instrument of some kind. But yes, and like how people measure those, they are like very small fractions of inches, like 2.37459 inches or something. I know you can buy templates that go on the top for different scale lengths. If you're in the US, I think CB Gitty do them. They do everything by the looks of it. I'm not sure if they do export to the UK or Europe, but yes, they definitely do them. If you're in the UK, I'd say perhaps email Chicken Bone John. I'm sure he'd sort you out. Yeah, absolutely. Or have a look round. Most accessories you can get on Amazon for cigar box guitars, but I've not found those. I think they're a bit more specialist. They're just a paper template that sticks on, and then you can just cut the frets, or you can measure against a standard guitar, which is what I did with Gemma. For those of you who've seen Gemma, I will feature her again, my little dulcimer, mountain dulcimer kind of thingy. She's a Gemma really. I don't think there's another one like her in the world. The 12th fret is a little bit off on her actually, but other than that I did pretty well. She's got a 25.5 inch scale neck, and I just measured it off against a standard guitar neck. Yeah, and just got it as straight as I could. We'll do more of that soon. As you know, I tend to go with unfretted instruments because I like to play fretless basically. And I tend to go with 3-string because I play 3-string. I have built a 4-string. I didn't have a lot of success with it, to be honest. But if that is something you'd like to see, we can always give it a go. So yeah, anything like that, just put in the comments. That's how this one got started. And that's excellent because I'm actually really up for this guitar build. And really, I think that's more or less it. So yeah, obviously then, once we've cut this front piece out, which I will do, and still probably feature part of that on the next video, that'll slot over there. Or if you simply want to do one without that slot, you can fit the neck like that, and that's perfectly fine, you know. But we'll cut that out. Now the reason why, oops, the reason why I've used thicker wood here, and I wonder if I can demonstrate slightly, is because it's so hard to line them up when they're exactly the same width and you get little gaps. Whereas with this, we can file that down and get it absolutely flush. And I will be showing you how to do that because we'll be doing that with the fingerboard in any case. But if I can just put this quickly into the very rickety bench, I will show you. It can be a bit daunting at first, but I say don't worry. I have a couple of tools here which are good for this. I have a solid Japanese rasp, as it is known, and you can see that's very solid with very deep teeth on there. And I've got this little plain rasp which I've never used yet because I haven't bought it. It's a bit like a mouse. And well, I haven't used it yet, so anything like that. I mean, you can, if you're careful, cut along here, leaving a slight, you know, using a hacksaw or your pull saw or whatever saw really. But I think I've found that it's easier just to start filing them, you know, they do come down. Maybe take a little bit of time. Not wanting to sort of damage this in the jaws of the bench too much either. But it doesn't really matter as the fingerboard's going to go on top. So if I can just see, if you have a vise, that's even better. Or anything you can do really. Clamp it to a work surface possibly. Just so you can have it on its side. And there we go. Go this way. And then simply, so we'll give this a go because I never tried it. If you just go along and just keep yeah, that seems to be doing quite a good job actually, but I like this. And you simply go along, file away at a bit of an angle. And you know, if you're prepared to spend, say, half an hour doing that, then it will come down really nice and flush. I might cut through this one actually, because it is a bit wide and we might be sitting here all day. But I will bring that to you on the next video. But quite simply, that's what you do. So if you've got a slight overhang, and there it goes. Yeah, just keep going, and you will get there eventually. It's one of those. Now, one thing I did forget to mention, and I mustn't, is the headstock, because it's quite good to know how long you want that piece. And the general rule, as I know it, and with a lot of luthiers, is 4.5 inches or 5 inches will be plenty for a 3-stringer or a 4-stringer, 4-string guitar. I'll try and speak a bit clearly. Obviously if you were doing a 6-string then it would probably be a bit larger, but you know, you can find out those, I'm sure, with a quick Google search or something like that. So yeah, I mean basically there it is for now, because again I'm sure you don't want to see half an hour of pure filing and stuff like that, but as we get this close to the neck I will actually finish off the job and I'll show you how to keep that nice and flush without gouging the wood. It's very easy really. It's a bit daunting because you think you're going to take too much off, but you won't, and I'll show you how not to. Also by that point we will have this constructed neck all set up and it'll be a lot more clear basically how that works. But as I say, if you want to keep the build very simple, maybe it's the first one you've made, then like little filberts here, you can simply put 2 bits of wood together, slot it in there, and you're well on your way. And I think that's actually very nice. Yeah, I do. So more on that one as well next time. And so yeah, there it is really, peeps. I will keep going with this one a little bit more this afternoon, and hopefully within the next day or two we'll have episode 3. So quite a long episode. I didn't want to have it too long. If you have stayed with me till the end, thank you ever so much. As ever, that's a pleasure. And that leaves only for me... Bleh. Start again, Liesl. And that leaves only for me to say, wherever you are, do stay safe. Whatever you're doing, do stay blessed. And most importantly, whatever life brings, keep building. Okay then peeps, thanks a lot. Bye for now. Bye.